Tanzania has long been known as a beacon of peace and stability in Africa, a country that has avoided the turmoil seen in much of the region while enjoying steady economic growth. But that calm reputation is now being tested. Following a disputed election that handed President Samia Suluhu Hassan a second term, protests have erupted across the country. Security forces have been deployed. Opposition leaders are under arrest, and international concern is growing. Once admired for its unity and progress, Tanzania now stands at a crossroads, struggling to protect both its democracy and its peace. Tanzanian authorities charged hundreds of people with treason over demonstrations around a disputed general election last month. In addition to dozens criminally charged a day earlier in Salaam, dozens more face similar treason charges everywhere in the East African country. Police also detained some of the top opposition officials who had not yet been jailed. They include Brenda Rupia, who's the communications director for the Chadema opposition group, as well as John Minyika, its Secretary General. It all started on October 29, when the country went to the polls. The vote was carefully controlled by President Samia Suluhu Hassan, head of the all-powerful ruling party Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM. The ruling Chama cha Mapinduzi, or CCM party, which has been in power since independence in 1961, sought to extend its rule. In the election, the opposition was either absent or nearly so. Tundu Lissu, who's the leader of the main opposition party, Chadema, was imprisoned and tried for treason. Here it is important to note that Lissu survived an assassination attempt in 2017, in which he was shot multiple times. In April this year, he was charged with treason after calling for electoral reforms. Another, Luhaga Mpina, candidate for the only other significant party, the Alliance for Change and Transparency, also called ACT, Wazalendo, was disqualified for procedural reasons. Almost as soon as polls opened on October 29, protesters decrying unfair elections began targeting polling stations, stealing ballot boxes, and burning tires and buildings. Demonstrators were angry about the Electoral Commission's exclusion of opposition candidates from the election race. Neither a nationwide internet shutoff nor the heavy police and army presence on the streets deterred them. A nighttime curfew brought cover for the real horror: violent and uncompromising reprisals from the security forces. The death toll is far from clear, but Chadema and some human rights activists say that security forces killed more than 1,000 people. However, the government has called those numbers exaggerated without offering its own death toll. In the wake of this crackdown, on the 3rd of November, President Samia Suluhu Hassan was sworn in for another term. The inauguration, held at the Tanzania People's Defense Force parade grounds in Salaam, was closed to the public and attended only by senior government and security officials. President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who officially won 98% of the vote, becomes Tanzania's first female president to take oath of office. She initially rose to power in 2021 after the death of the former president John Magufuli, completing his term before seeking re-election. Now, her victory, however, has been marred by reports of human rights abuses and unrest in several cities. She has called for calm, but also spoken publicly of the need to protect national security at all costs, warning protesters that she would not hesitate to deploy the full power of the security forces against them.
Mzalendo hujenga nchi na sio kubomoa nchi.
A patriot builds the nation and does not destroy the nation that has been built through the strength and sweat of the citizens. The government strongly condemns and denounces those incidents. What I want to say here is that when it comes to the national security and the safety of United Republic of Tanzania, there is no alternative but to employ all defense measures to ensure the nation remains safe.
She has gone further than her autocratic predecessors in closing off the political space and silencing opposition figures. By putting her main rival, Tundu Lissu, on trial for treason and barring others from contesting the presidency, Hassan has crossed autocratic thresholds that other leaders have not. Activists have been arrested, brutalized, or they've disappeared. On November 10, a Catholic Mass was held for people killed during election protests in Tanzania.
Na taifa letu
Our nation has been wounded, and it has lost its dignity because of what transpired during the week of the general election. It has not only lost its honor, but also its people. Citizens who were unlawfully killed. There are people who were killed while demonstrating, yet the punishment for protesting is not death by gunfire. There are also those who were killed in their own homes. They were pursued and murdered right inside their houses. That does not in any way reflect the true image of Tanzania.
Violent protests over Tanzania's disputed election results spilled across the border into the Kenyan town of Namanga. Chaos erupted as protesters scattered when stun grenades were fired, with tear gas clouds rising over the streets. Activists in Kenya criticized the East African Community EAC for remaining silent over the alleged killings of demonstrators in Tanzania. The Tanzanian election took place amid gathering political tension and what the opposition and human rights groups said was a campaign of repression. The United Nations said it had recorded reports of the forced disappearance of political dissenters, including a prominent diplomat, Humphrey Paul. Top members of the European Parliament said that the elections were neither free nor fair, noting that the election had taken place in a broader atmosphere of repression and fear. Tanzania has long been regarded as one of the region's most stable nations, often credited with peaceful power transitions and steady economic management. However, recent unrest and political tensions have raised concerns about its democratic trajectory and investment climate. In the Global Peace Index 2025, Tanzania ranks as the most peaceful country in East Africa, placing 73rd globally out of 163 countries. Yet, observers say this long-standing reputation could come under strain if political divisions deepen. Economically, Tanzania's GDP is projected to grow by about 6.4% in 2026, supported by an 11.6% increase in the national budget to approximately $21.6 billion. As President Hassan begins her new term, she faces a dual challenge: restoring public trust and preserving Tanzania's reputation as a leading investment hub in East Africa. With strong peace credentials and a promising growth outlook, the country's future will depend on how effectively its leadership can balance political stability, institutional reforms, and inclusive economic progress. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We will see you in the next episode with more raging issues. Until then, it's goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Mark Lynn signing off. Take care and stay safe.